Hey, Mark Fenton, how are you? Sorry I can't be there with you at Pro Walk, Pro Bike, but I thought I'd drop in. Get it? Drop in. It's a fire pole. Drop in. Okay. Actually, it's one of the most fun things of my office is my fire pole. That and my comfy chair. Well, I guess that's two things. My two favorite things in my office are my fire pole, comfy chair, and the great view, actually, of the... That's really three things. So my three favorite things are the fire pole, comfy chair, view. It's great to be with you. I'm sorry I'm not out there at Pro Walk, Pro Bike. I'm excited for you guys. And I actually just wanted to do a couple of quick things. First, thank you for the work that you're doing. I think it's fantastic. I know a lot of you, some of you personally, and I've been fortunate enough to work with you. And what you do is very, very important to your communities and to this movement nationally. So thank you for that. But all of you, I know it's been a great time commitment, and you've had to suffer through 2 Fenton webinars over the course of the thing. But I understand you're doing fantastic work, and I'm looking forward to hearing about the plans that you're developing. Along those lines, I hope you've found value in what you've gotten along the way, and that you see how it's going to apply to the development of your action plans. A couple of quick thoughts, or reminders, if you will, of sort of what salient points I would make around your work. One is that we have to understand that we're looking at literally systems level change. There's a huge amount of inertia to keep building the world the way we've been building it, you know, whether it's zoning ordinances and land use planning, whether it's the private sector, the development industry, and we need a massive shift. Little incremental changes are not going to do the job here. And I say that because I feel like we've historically recently been winning battles but losing the war. Great bike lane over here, fix a sidewalk over there, neat road diet here, and yet turning over, you know, just acres and acres of green fields and turning them into unwalkable housing subdivisions that are distant from anything, no schools nearby, no connections to those schools. So we need to change fundamentally how we do work. And two of the things that I propose, and I'm sure you've heard from others over the course of this class, has been that we have to work both bottom up and top down. The bottom up piece is the work that you're doing, this advocacy work of engaging the community, both public and private sector, building sentiment in support of a more walkable world, and getting really engagement at every level to create the kind of change and support for that change that we're all looking for, which has to, and this is the important part, come also top down. In other words, that bottom up work has got to be changing the policies and policymakers at the top so that the very rules that guide how we build our infrastructure, how we fund what we create, how both our policies, but also our routine practices and procedures, kind of the stuff that's just built into the bureaucracy of our communities, thinks differently about walking and walkability and makes it a priority. So that's the top-down piece. You know, we do the bottom-up, but it is to enable the big change at the top, capital P policy, as well as routine practices and procedures. Which leads us to the walking action plans that you're going to work on. 3 bits of advice on those, if I may. 3 important pieces of advice around your action plans. Number 1, make sure you pick something that is your passion, that you really care deeply about, that you get it, that you feel that this is important, is going to make a difference. My experience is the more that you bring that to the party, the much more likelihood of your success. I'm sure you've talked about that. I'm sure you all get that. The very fact that you're attending this course, that you're at Pro Walk, Pro Bike tells me you get that. But think about that as you build your plan. 2, as you looked at the documents, the guiding documents that Ian and I created, I'm sure you saw there's a lot of specificity in that. You're talking about dates and outcomes. There's this idea of a long-term plan. You know, what do you want to get done in 2 to 3 years? The big takeaway. This corridor redesigned, our city adopting new guidelines. But we also ask for that 6 to 12 month initial plan that says how you're going to begin your way down that path. And the reason that's important is you've got to have some concrete check-offable things. You know, by 3 months from now, I will have done this. And by 6 months, we will have had a walk to school day event. And by 12 months, we will have, you know, those concretes really help you along the way. And so don't hesitate to be specific. And my third piece of advice is take advantage of the expertise available to you. So obviously you've got Ian and one another, you know, look to each other to sort of, as you think about your plans, make them more specific, make them more concrete, anticipate challenges, use the mentors who are available to you. And I hope you would see me as one of those experts in that. And in fact, I must be. Why? Well, because I've got a bookshelf, right? If you got a bookshelf, you must be an expert. In fact, let's see what's up there. Why, look at this. It's the NACTO Urban Street Design Guide, which would, by the way, be a wonderful 3-year goal to have your city adopt the Urban Street Design Guide as its roadway design guidance, or at least incorporate that, or the Urban Bikeway Design Guide, or their new Urban Transit Design, Street Design Guide. The point is, the National Association of City Transportation Officials and lots of other resources are out there. And this is a high level, to me, this would be a big deal. It might be a capital P policy change in your community. It might not be the kind of thing you'll get in 6 months. It might take 2 to 3 years. So what do you have to do in the interim? Maybe you have to do some pop-ups and some a sort of temporary roadway redesigns and do some demonstration projects, some pilots. Maybe you've got to get your public works department to actually do a field trip to another community where you've built some of that stuff. I acknowledge that some of the ideas here will be hard and challenging. I also submit to you they will be exciting and they will outlast you. That if you do this kind of stuff, it will be the stuff that has a long-term effect. And that'll be my parting thought. Know that when we do our little reviews, we're going to have these 1-hour sort of conference call reviews with several of you and me on a call. We will have cross-shared your draft plans, and we'll be reacting. And it's only going to be enough time for me to ask a couple of questions, poke you a little and I'm going to warn you now. You know what I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask, what is the level of stickiness of your idea here? How is this going to actually create lasting change in your community toward walking and walkability? I know that's hard. I mean, I know that's a challenging thing, but it's exactly what you want to do because, you're not going to be doing this forever. Indeed, I think of my friend Mike from Texas. There you are, I hope, Mike. And, a few years down the road, maybe Texas A&M doesn't have the funding for this project, or maybe you've decided to become a longhorn cattle rancher. And so you're doing that and you're not doing anything. What will have been the sustaining effect of the work you're doing right now? In other words, how will what you're doing now outlast even when you're out cattle ranching? Or Leslie from Colorado, maybe that grouchy guy from the MPO is going to undermine any more pedestrian and bicycle sort of special expenditures. Well, how will you have created institutional change that assures that even when you decide to become a hiking guide full-time, not doing this stuff anymore, it's still there. Or how about Jill in Florida? Maybe the hospital stops funding this stuff, or maybe your son, who I submit to you should be a full-time professional race walker, you go on the road with him as his coach, right? Because he is a good race walker. And how will what you're doing there in Winter Park have created sustained change so that when you're done, it's still creating a lasting effect? Obviously, those are silly notions, but they aren't entirely, because frankly, if that's not what we're working for, that level of institutional change, then we're going to continue just winning battles and losing the war. So my challenge to you, think about your plans in that context, what their sustained systemic effect will be. It's really been a pleasure, a privilege really, to get to work with you guys so far. I hope it's been helpful, and I look forward to hearing about your plans. Have a great Pro Walk, Pro Bike conference. Take advantage of the expertise that's there in front of you right now. It's going to be fantastic, I think. And I look forward to connecting with all of you in October. And thanks for the opportunity to drop in today. Thanks, guys.